All right, so for one of your must-dos, you need to create the line drawing using contour lines of the artwork Still Life with Teapot and Fruit by the artist Paul Gauguin. I apologize for this terrible shadow, by the way. You'll get a piece of newsprint. That's what this is, right? Mine, I've got a stack here because I like to have a couple extra pieces underneath what I'm drawing. But you're going to get a piece of newsprint. And if you notice, I'm holding my paper in a very specific way. I call this, or we call this as artists, landscape. There's landscape and then there's portrait. Portrait is taller than it is wide, and landscape is wider than it is tall. But if you look at the artwork that you're drawing from, it is a landscape-oriented painting. The goal for your assignment here is to use very light pencil marks to recreate the drawing or the painting that's on the slide by the artist Paul Gauguin using just shapes. You're not shading anything in, we're not adding color, we're not doing any of those things. So the first thing we want to do when we do that is kind of block out where some of these basic shapes come in from, and I'm going to organize my drawing by the negative space that I see that kind of hugs and holds all of the visual information on the canvas. I'm not going to get super specific, so there is a flower and it has points on it, but I'm just going to use a general circle for that to start with. I'm not going to worry about the teapot handle at this point either. I'm just going to block in where I see these very generalized shapes. I'm not going to get super specific. Once again, it's just my negative space. There's a vase here, and it comes up and it exits the painting at the top of the canvas. Notice I'm keeping my marks light, and I'm not getting super specific with all of my shapes yet. So there's some mangoes or something over here, and then the end here. I kind of went a little too big, but it's okay. I can run off the edge. It's the general shapes that I'm looking for. Right up in this area, if you refer to the picture or the painting, there's another flower. I'm going to go a little smaller. There is a vertical shape here, vertical like rectangle here, and then there's a face over here, and the body of a person, and that gives me the negative space at the top of my canvas. And again, I know my lines are very light and it's hard to see, but this is how you start with your contour line drawing or any drawing. You're going to break things down into basic shapes. I like to just kind of divide my canvas a little bit first. Then I come in and I use here, this is my sight area for where that oval is for the top of my teapot. And then there's kind of a rectangle here that comes down, and it has a curvature to the bottom. Then there is a spoon here that I'm going to use as an oval, and then another rectangle that comes down here. I can get more specific later. I don't need to get specific right away. Okay. Over here, there's like a grapefruit or something. It's a circle. So I'm just going to put a circle right there for that grapefruit. And over here, I've got a large, I don't know, papaya maybe? I don't know what it is. It's just some big oval thing here. Not getting super specific. There's another of that same fruit, but a little bit smaller and a little higher up, and this one overlaps that. And then here is that original papaya that I started to draw there. Then there's another one, another oval over here. And that actually should be here, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be absolutely 100% perfect. I'm not going for perfect. I'm going for progress. I have some overlapping shapes here. I have a line there. I can erase it or I can leave it. It's up to me because it's light enough that it doesn't really matter. Then in the front, I've got this little triangle that's formed by this cloth that's on the surface of the table. And then over here, there's like another kind of wonky triangle for the corner of the table. So I've got my basic shapes already plugged in. I know where things need to go. And then I can start coming in with more of the contour lines to define more of that cloth as it's folded. I can come in and do the spout of my teapot that comes in here. So I start with my very basic shapes, and then I come into more specific shapes as the work progresses. So this is the idea that I'm looking for with this part of your mastery checks, if you will, or your must-dos, right? Then you're going to come in and get more specific with things like the flower here. And I'm looking at the painting. I'm not really looking at my paper because I know what a flower looks like, and the challenge there is to not draw what I know, but actually draw what I see. And that can be really challenging when you're starting out learning how to draw. And this is where I'm going to find that I drew my flower in kind of the wrong spot. My teapot's not going to come up in front of it, but I can move these things because I'm not overly committed to it yet because I've just started drawing with basic shapes. If I went in here and I had done this, tried to be absolutely perfect right away, that might break my heart a little bit more to have to make such changes as I had to make there. But it doesn't really hurt my feelings at this point. This negative space between the top of the teapot and the handle is a little bit too big, and part of the flower should be down in there. But those are changes that I can make later on. I don't have to be, like I said, I don't have to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. I am looking for indications that you guys are looking at what you're drawing and recording the things you see with fairly decent accuracy, and understanding that learning how to draw is like anything else that we do. It's something that with practice we can get better at it, and we don't have to be the most talented person in the class in order to do the job that's in front of you, right? It doesn't have to be that you're like an artist already. It's Art 1. It's not AP, right? So you're just going to come in, break down the contour lines, which include the surface details as well, and not just the outer edges. So things like shadows and highlights need to be included as well, and I'm going to start to put those in. You see I started putting in some of the surface information about this little vase thing here. Where the highlight is, this is the highlighted area, this is a shadow area. There's another highlight up here, right, and another highlight there. And I just start sketching this information in, and my work starts to become more complete. And I actually start deepening some of my marks. I can include things like a cast shadow under this strange little fruit thing that maybe one of you guys knows what it is. I do not. To me, it's not that important to know what it is. It's actually easier to draw things that I don't know than it is the stuff I do know, because I don't have to rely on prior knowledge to be able to draw it more accurately. I can just go, that's a foreign thing to me, and so therefore I have to look more carefully at it. There is this big shadow there on this fruit, right? There's like a little place where that papaya came off of the tree there. There's like a red area. This is more of a green area. See, we just start to define and describe things that I see. There's a piece of fabric there. And then here is another one of those little papaya things. It's got a little spot where the stem attached. There's some color variations. And there's a cool thing you can do if you have a hard time seeing those color variations. If you squint at it, at the actual painting that you're looking at, you can see those color variations a little bit better. So that when everything is said and done here, what you should have is something that almost looks like a paint by number that has, you know, enough accuracy to tell me that you didn't just stop looking at these flowers. You didn't just stop looking because you're like, oh, there's a flower there, there's a teapot there, I'm just going to draw a teapot. I want to see that you've actually drawn this from observation of the positive and negative shapes that you see and recording it with fairly decent accuracy, if that makes sense, right? There's like another circle in here, and then there's like little things here. That one doesn't have as much of that, but this one does. So that when you're all done, you have something like this to show me so that we can move on to the next, you can move on to the next part of the unit. Good luck and have fun.